Dawn of the Dead wasn't just a remake, it was a resurrection with a pulse. When director Zack Snyder's version tore into theaters in 2004, it didn't shuffle, it sprinted. Zombies moved faster than fear itself. Society collapsed in real time. This wasn't George Romero's slow burn nightmare. This was a survival shot by a first-time director who'd spent his career making commercials. And behind the chaos, the blood, and the boarded up mall lay 20 secrets that never made it past the barricades. From accidental injuries to hidden tributes, from death threats to demolished sets. These are the disturbing, bizarre, and shocking facts about Dawn of the Dead that you definitely didn't know. Number 1. When Dawn of the Dead arrived in 2004, zombie movies were clinically dead. The genre had flatlined somewhere between campy B-movies and forgotten VHS rentals. Nobody was making them. Nobody was watching them. But Snyder's remake changed everything. It grossed over $102 million worldwide on a $26 million budget, proving that the undead still had box office teeth. The film's success kicked off a new era of fast-moving corpses and apocalyptic dread. It inspired everything from 28 Weeks Later to The Walking Dead, reigniting an entire genre that had been left for dead. Dawn of the Dead didn't just update a classic, it reanimated an entire generation's nightmare, and Hollywood took notice. Within 2 years, zombie films were everywhere again, shambling back into multiplexes with renewed hunger. Number 2. That chaotic suburban escape sequence, the one that drops you into the apocalypse with zero warning, took 4 full days to film. The production team didn't use stock footage or existing neighborhoods. They literally constructed and then destroyed entire streets. Custom-built houses, fake lawns, real cars set on fire. Everything was designed to look like a normal American suburb on its worst morning ever. By the time they wrapped, the fake neighborhood looked more real than most real ones. Smoke hung in the air, glass littered the pavement, blood stained the driveways. Zack Snyder wanted that opening to feel like the world was ending right outside your window, and the only way to do that was to build the world first, then burn it down on camera. Number 3. The film used actual newscasters from local Toronto TV stations to deliver the panic scenes. These weren't actors pretending to be journalists. They were real anchors reading fake scripts about the end of civilization. It made the chaos feel disturbingly authentic, like breaking news you shouldn't be watching but can't look away from. Zack Snyder said it blurred the line between fiction and that creeping sense of reality that makes disaster feel close. The newscasters delivered their lines with professional calm, even as the scripts described societal collapse, martial law, and the dead rising. It was a brilliant choice that grounded the supernatural horror in something uncomfortably familiar, because when the apocalypse comes, it won't look like a movie. It'll look like the 6 o'clock news. Number 4. James Gunn wrote the screenplay on a beat-up laptop in a Los Angeles coffee shop. He was broke, newly divorced, and drinking 6 cups a day just to finish. This was before Guardians of the Galaxy, before Marvel, before anyone knew his name outside of Scooby-Doo. Gunn poured his frustration, his anger, and his dark sense of humor into the script. He said later that writing Dawn of the Dead was therapeutic, a way to process his own personal apocalypse through fictional carnage. The coffee shop became his office for weeks. Baristas knew his order by heart, and somewhere between espresso shots and dialogue about running zombies, Gunn crafted a screenplay that would change his career. Not bad for a caffeine-fueled apocalypse written at a corner table. Number 5. Before superheroes and slow-motion explosions, Zack Snyder was an advertising director making car commercials and music videos. Dawn of the Dead was his feature film debut, and the studio nearly passed because he was too visual. Executives worried he'd prioritize style over substance, that he'd make a zombie movie that looked great but felt empty. Ironically, that same visual style became his signature and his ticket to 300, Watchmen, and eventually the DC Extended Universe. Snyder's background in commercials taught him how to tell stories in 30-second bursts, which translated perfectly to the kinetic, image-driven horror of Dawn of the Dead. He proved that a first-time director with a strong visual eye could reinvent a genre, and Hollywood never forgot it. Number 6. Several actors from George Romero's 1978 Dawn of the Dead secretly appear in the remake, but you only see them on television screens the survivors are watching. Ken Faree, who played Peter in the original, appears as a televangelist delivering the film's iconic tagline, "When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth." Scott Reiniger, who played Roger, shows up as a military general telling people to stay home. And Tom Savini, the legendary special effects artist who played the Biker Blades, appears as a sheriff explaining that you have to shoot zombies in the head. These weren't just nostalgic Easter eggs. They were respectful tributes that connected the remake to its source material across decades of undead chaos. It's a blink and you'll miss it moment that links both versions in a way that honors Romero's legacy while carving out Snyder's own vision. Number 7. Filming took place inside a real, abandoned shopping mall in Ontario, Canada. Thornhill Square Shopping Center had been scheduled for demolition, which gave the production team free rein to destroy destroy it on camera, but something strange happened during the shoot. Crew members reported weird noises echoing through empty corridors, flickering lights in stores that had no power, doors opening by themselves in sections of the mall that were supposed to be locked. Some crew members refused to work alone in certain areas. Zack Snyder later joked, "If it wasn't haunted before we got there, it definitely was after." Whether the stories were real or just the product of exhausted minds working long nights in a creepy location, the atmosphere added to the film's sense of dread. The mall felt genuinely abandoned, genuinely dangerous, because in some ways, it was. Number 8. Every background zombie went through what the production called zombie boot camp. Over 300 extras were trained in movement, attack timing, and how to react to fake gunfire without breaking character. They learned how to shamble, how to sprint, and how to make their bodies move like something that had forgotten how to be human. Choreographers taught them to twitch, stumble, and lunge with disturbing realism. Zack Snyder said it was like directing 100 angry dancers covered in blood. The training paid off. The zombies in Dawn of the Dead don't just look scary, they move scary. Their movements are unpredictable, aggressive, and unsettlingly coordinated. It's one of the reasons the film's action sequences feel so visceral. The zombies weren't just extras in makeup, they were performers who understood their role in the horror. Number 9. During one particularly intense take, a zombie extra accidentally bit an actor hard enough to leave a mark. The bite wasn't scripted. The extra just got too deep into character and instinctively lunged with their mouth open. The director yelled, "Cut!" but the cameras kept rolling for a few seconds longer, capturing the genuine shock and pain on the actor's face. That footage made it into the final film. It's one of those moments where real discomfort translates to authentic horror on screen. Talk about method acting gone wrong. The extra apologized profusely afterward, but Snyder loved the intensity of the moment. He said it reminded everyone on set that they were making something raw and dangerous, not just another zombie movie. The bite left a bruise, but it also left a mark on the film itself. Number 10. In early drafts of the script, the survivors actually made it to a safe island and found other people alive. There were boats, communities, and even hints of rebuilding civilization. But when test audiences saw this ending, they laughed. They said it felt too Hollywood, too neat, too comforting for a film that had spent 90 minutes dismantling hope. Snyder and James Gunn went back and rewrote the ending to be bleaker, more ambiguous, and far more terrifying. The found footage style finale wasn't part of the original script. It was added late in post-production to make the story feel unfinished and hopeless, to suggest that escape was never really possible. And it worked. The new ending shocked audiences and cemented Dawn of the Dead as a film that refused to offer easy answers. Number 11. Sharp-eyed fans noticed a helicopter parked on the mall's rooftop in several scenes. It's not just any helicopter, it's the exact same model used in George Romero's 1978 version. Zack Snyder tracked it down specifically as a deliberate homage to the original film. The helicopter had been stored in a warehouse for years, barely functional, but the production team restored it just enough to make it look convincing on camera. It never flew. It didn't need to. Its presence alone was enough to connect the two films visually and thematically. One remake that literally borrowed its wings from the past. For Snyder, it was about respect. He wanted to show that even though he was reimagining Romero's vision, he wasn't erasing it. The helicopter was a symbol of continuity, a bridge between the old apocalypse and the new one. Number 12. When the crew realized they had access to a real chainsaw on set, Zack Snyder decided to write it into the script mid-shoot. The chainsaw wasn't part of the original plan, but once it was there, Snyder couldn't resist. The actors had to choreograph the kill sequence on the spot, figuring out angles, timing, and safety measures in real time. One mistimed move, and it could have been Dawn of the Dead, the documentary. The scene where the chainsaw tears through a zombie's skull was shot in multiple takes, with the effects team rigging breakaway props and blood tubes. It became one of the film's most visceral moments, all because someone brought a chainsaw to work that day. Snyder loved the spontaneity. He said the best horror comes from improvisation, from decisions made in the moment when adrenaline is high and logic is low. Number 13. To save money, the special effects team mixed coffee grounds, syrup, and red dye to create zombie blood. The texture looked perfect on camera, thick and dark and disturbingly realistic, but it smelled like a breakfast buffet gone wrong. By the final week of shooting, the entire mall reeked of stale espresso and death. Crew members complained, actors gagged between takes, and the cleanup was a nightmare. But the blood worked. It looked better than most commercial fake blood, and it cost a fraction of the price. Makeup designer David Leroy Anderson said the coffee-based recipe gave the blood a matte finish that didn't reflect light the same way synthetic blood did. It looked more organic, more human, and in a film drenched in gore, that mattered. The smell was unbearable, but the visuals were undeniable. Number 14. Because the set was so isolated and shooting schedules ran late into the night, some cast members literally camped inside the mall overnight. They slept in stores, wandered the dark halls, and scared each other after hours. By week 3, everyone was a little too comfortable with the end of the world. Actors would wake up surrounded by mannequins and fake blood, stumble into the craft services table set up in an abandoned food court, and go right back to filming. The experience created a strange bond among the cast. They weren't just acting in a zombie apocalypse, they were living in one, at least for a few weeks. Actress Sarah Polley later said the overnight stays made the performances feel more authentic. When you're filming in a haunted mall at 3 a.m., you don't have to act scared. You already are. Number 15. Ty Burrell's character, Steve, was written as a straight villain, a smug authority figure who clashes with the survivors. But Ty Burrell's sarcastic improv made him darkly hilarious, so Zack Snyder let him go full jerk mode. Burrell leaned into the character's arrogance and selfishness, adding comedic timing to moments that could have just been tense. The result was one of the few zombie movies where the living get more laughs than the dead. Steve became the character audiences love to hate, a reminder that in an apocalypse, sometimes the real monsters are the people who refuse to work together. Years later, Burrell would become famous for playing the lovable dad on Modern Family, but in Dawn of the Dead, he was anything but lovable. Number 16. Halfway through filming, crew members discovered an unmarked storage level beneath the real mall. It wasn't on any floor plan. The entrance was hidden behind a locked door in the loading dock area. When they finally got it open, they found a pitch-black corridor covered in graffiti and filled with leftover mannequins from decades past. It looked like something out of a horror movie inside a horror movie. Zack Snyder wanted to shoot a scene down there, something claustrophobic and nightmarish, but the cast refused, calling it too cursed for fiction. Even the crew didn't want to go back down, so the basement remained unexplored, a real-life mystery buried beneath a fictional apocalypse. Some locations are better left alone. Number 17. To stay in character and maintain tension during long takes, the actors used the word apple to alert each other when zombies were sneaking up behind them. It started as a practical safety measure, a way to warn scene partners without breaking the fourth wall, but the code became an inside joke. By the end of filming, even Zack Snyder was yelling apple between takes to mess with the cast. It was the weirdest safety word in horror history, and it helped keep the mood light during brutal shooting days. Actors would slip it into dialogue as improvised lines, hoping to make each other laugh. Most of those moments got cut, but the code word stayed. Even now, cast members joke that they can't look at apples the same way. Number 18. Before filming began, Zack Snyder asked the main cast to write down who they thought would live through the story. He collected the guesses and sealed them in an envelope. Only one actor guessed correctly, Ty Burrell, who thought his smug character would die horribly but deserve it. Snyder kept the list until the rap party, then read it aloud for laughs. Some actors had picked themselves to survive. Others had killed off their own characters in elaborate ways. The bet became a running gag, a reminder that even the cast didn't know how bleak the ending would be. When the final cut was screened, everyone remembered their predictions, and everyone was wrong except Ty. The sealed envelope became a piece of production lore, eventually auctioned off for charity years later. Number 19. The found footage style finale wasn't part of James Gunn's original script. Zack Snyder added it after test screenings revealed that audiences wanted closure, even if that closure was horrific. The end credits sequence showing the survivors' final moments on the island through grainy handheld camera footage was filmed weeks after principal photography wrapped. Snyder shot it on the backlot at Universal Studios Hollywood, just a few feet from the theme park's gift shop. The crew used Park Lake, an artificial lake on the lot, to create the island setting. The sequence was cheap, fast, and devastatingly effective. It turned the film's escape into a trap, proving that in Dawn of the Dead, there is no safe harbor. Snyder said, "I wanted people to leave the theater feeling like the nightmare was still going, even after the credits." And it worked. The ending lingers, unfinished and unforgiving. Number 20. The end credits used Johnny Cash's "The Man Comes Around," a haunting callback to George Romero's tradition of pairing apocalyptic imagery with unexpected music. The song wasn't in early cuts of the film. Snyder added it late in post-production, wanting something that tied the remake back to Romero's social commentary roots. Cash's voice, gravelly and prophetic, fit perfectly over the found footage horror of the credits. It gave the film a poetic weight, a reminder that even in the apocalypse, there's room for reflection. The song became iconic, forever linked to the film's bleak vision of survival, because when the world ends, even zombies deserve a soundtrack, and sometimes the best horror doesn't scream, it whispers. Snyder later said choosing that song was the easiest decision he made in post-production, calling it the only ending the film could have. Dawn of the Dead wasn't just a remake, it was a reinvention. It took a slow burn classic and turned it into a high-speed nightmare, proving that zombie horror could evolve evolve without losing its teeth. Behind the blood and chaos were accidental injuries, hidden tributes, and production secrets that never made it past the barricades. From coffee ground blood to cursed basements, from code words to death threats, these 20 facts reveal the disturbing, bizarre, and shocking reality of making a modern horror classic. Which of these facts surprised you most? And which undead movie should we dig up next?